Ear infections. Ear infections are the primary reason that most parents have to take their kids to the medical doctor every year. Most kids that get ear infections aren't just getting one a year. A lot of times they're getting multiple ear infections a year, and it's just a reoccurring thing. It's almost like we're counting the days between ear infections when parents are dealing with this problem. What I want to address is how this happens in the first place and what chiropractic care can do to help save your kid in this area. Quite literally, save your kid from the reoccurring ear infections, from the reoccurring just antibiotics, the surgeries, all those kind of things. So let's dive in. Ear infections start for most kids at the birthing process with birthing trauma. And when I say birthing trauma, a lot of times it's things that we interpret as normal things. Things like C-sections that are semi-routine in this country. This is one of the biggest areas that cause ear infections. Things like forceps, even vaginal deliveries that are a little bit rougher. What happens to baby's neck, a lot of times when there's a lot of pressure, and even during a normal vaginal delivery, there's tons of pressure on the upper part of that baby's head, and it's compressing that upper cervical spine. Now you take into account a C-section or a forceps delivery where they're yanking that infant out of either the abdomen or the birth canal. That's a lot of times, even if you've had a C-section, a lot of times you will see that they cover your face, they won't let dad see, and it's because of the pressure, it's because of the way that they're having to yank that kid out of mom, and it puts a tremendous amount of strain, a tremendous amount of stress. Is almost equivalent to like a grade 2 strain or a grade 3 strain that adults would get from a car accident, and it's happening as a little baby. So a lot of times we interpret it as colic or a fussy baby, but really they have a ton of pressure on the upper part of their cervical spine. Now that eustachian tube, that tube that's right behind the eardrum that helps your child's ears drain, and a normal infant anyway, that tube's a little bit thinner, it's a little bit flatter, it sits at an angle that's a little bit flatter to where adults sits at a little bit more of an angle so it can drain into the throat a little bit easier. But for a kid, an infant, that tube is flat, it's a lot more narrow, so just the tiniest misalignments in the upper cervical spine can cause that structure to be either squeezed so it won't drain, or it prohibits any fluid from getting through it at all. And that's why ear infections will start to happen. Now you have fluid in a hot body, it starts to produce bacteria. The first thing that the Pediatric Association wants most doctors to do, most pediatricians to do, is observe for about 7 to 10 days. Observe a child for 7 to 10 days. They did a survey though, and they found that only 15% of doctors are actually observing the child. They're rushing straight to antibiotics. They're doing 7 to 10 days courses of antibiotics, which is flushing out that kid's immune system. It's not, the thing with antibiotics, they're not selective. They take out bacteria in the children's gut and the immune system, so that a kid's immune system is going to be depleted, which is exactly opposite of what we need when we're battling an ear infection. And the problem with that is you're not addressing the cause of what's causing that ear infection. You're not addressing the structural misalignment that caused that ear infection in the first place. So that's why we keep getting reoccurring ear infections. That's why we'll have an ear infection, we'll take antibiotics, it'll flush that out, it'll kill the bacteria, but that problem still lies in that child. That's why we get another ear infection and we throw more antibiotics at it. And then we get another ear infection, and before long the doctor's recommending that we put tubes in the ears. We don't know why they keep getting ear infections. I do because we see these kids on a regular basis, and when we start adjusting them, the ear infections go away. The ear infections stop coming. It's very, very simple. You take the structure, you take the stress off the structure that's putting stress on the structure of the eustachian tube, not allowing that part of the children's ear to drain, and now the kid starts doing better. Putting tubes in a child's ears, or even doing things like antibiotics, is like if I had the fire sprinklers going off in this room. If that fire sprinklers were going off, filling this room up with water, and I decided to poke a hole in the wall so that the water didn't build up too much in the room. We would never ever do that, but that's what we're doing with these children. We're poking holes in the ears, we're taking antibiotics, we're not getting to the root cause, which is the structural misalignments up in the upper part of the neck, not even to mention mention the fact that all those antibiotics we're taking is just bringing that kid's immune system down in a time that kid's immune system should be building up. We should be doing everything to help build up that kid's immune system rather than doing things to drag it down. That's why kids are having issues, immunity issues, far into their teens and adulthood. There's been tons of studies done to show that several rounds of antibiotics with kids under 3 to 5 years old, the instance of asthma in these kids, especially going into their teenage and adult years, goes up by about 74% when we're on multiple rounds of antibiotics before the age of 5. So we see these issues, and it's very, as a chiropractor, as somebody who sees these issues and sees how when the habits that healthy children and healthy parents have compared to people who are just throwing antibiotics. We're just throwing antibiotics. And it's not our fault. A lot of times it's just a lack of information. That's why I do this, because I understand as parents there's so many different sources, and we should be able to trust our doctors, but the American medical system is not a healthcare system. It's a sick care system. So we're trying to treat sick symptoms rather than helping that kid just be healthy. If we help that kid be healthy, we don't realize that a healthy kid won't have reoccurring ear infections, won't have asthma, won't have digestive issues, won't have reoccurring temper tantrums. Healthy kids without stress on their spine, their nervous system, won't have stress on their bodies, and their bodies can heal. Their bodies can be at a state of homeostasis that we need them to be in to be developing healthy and to be developing a healthy, functional immune system, healthy, functional nervous system. So that's a lot of stuff today, but it's so important. It's so important. This is one thing, like I said, it's the most common trip to doctor's offices for kids. It's a very, very frustrating thing for parents to be over and over and over again have these issues with their kids and not have answers. I can't imagine having to take your young kid in for tubes, and it's just a sad thing. So that's why I do this. I want to get the information out to you, your friends, your family. If anybody needs this, if anybody has questions, if anybody wants a consultation for their kids, please let us know. Give our office a call. We'd love to be able to help you however we can, especially when it comes to ear infections and creating healthy kids. Remember, healthy kids grow up to be healthy adults. Sick kids grow up to be sick adults. Let's start getting these kids healthy now. Let's start with the healthy habits now. It's so much easier to keep our health rather than try to get it back once we've started to lose it. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. If there's anything you need, you please reach out to me.